What's up, guys? Let's talk about dispositions because without dispositions, we don't get paid as a wholesaler. So, today we're going to be talking about how you build a bridge for your end buyers and make sure that you understand that you're getting deals where your end buyers will truly buy and they're going to be profitable and they're going to come back to you and buy deal after deal after deal. So, first thing I want you to think about is put yourself in the position of being the end buyer and what you are looking for, because one of the issues that we have is we spend money on lead generation. Then we place the phone calls, we leave the voicemails, we send the text messages, and then we finally get that seller on the phone and it's time to do acquisitions. And every time we start running those numbers, we try to manufacture the deal, right? We've had to do so much work to get to that moment. And then we kind of forget about the fact that if we were to lock this deal up and we send it out to our end buyers, we're one of many, many, many deals that end buyer can choose from. There's so many wholesale deals out there. The end buyers have the right and the opportunity to just say, no, thank you. That's not what I'm looking for. So on the marketing side, on dispositions, how are we going to make our deal stand out above the masses? All the other wholesalers' deals, right? So there's this theory that 70% of ARV minus repairs minus your wholesale fee, that's what we should be doing to run numbers. That's just antiquated and it doesn't work anymore. And there's certain deals that break that formula. And then your end buyer looks at it and says, why would I do that? The juice is not worth the squeeze. Like I don't want to do that deal. And then you're like, but I locked it up 70% of ARV minus repairs minus my wholesale fee. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And they look at it and they say, it's not the right deal for me. It's not worth the effort. Okay. So what you need to be doing is you need to put yourself in the position of the end buyer and think to yourself, is the investment worth the profit? Right? The liability that they're taking on, the effort that they're going to have to take on. It's not just the money investment. It's also the time and effort investment that end buyer has to put into that project. And then how much do they stand to gain for the money investment, the time investment, and the effort investment? Okay, let's give an example here. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to bring this up right here. So this is the old MAO calculator. And what I have punched in right here is a very common after repair value of 200,000. We multiply that by 70%, it gets us down to 140,000. Then we subtract a very common rehab budget of 40,000. And then the nationwide average of $15,000 wholesale fee gets us down to an MAO of 84,999. All right. Let's go to our profit calculator. Same numbers. $200,000, okay? Minus 14,000 in closing costs, minus 40,000 in repairs, minus the 10,000 in holding costs. Puts our contract price to the seller 80,000, wholesale fee 15,000, our contract price to the buyer is 95,000. The end buyer in this scenario is going to do $40,000 worth of work on the property to make $41,000 potential profit. Okay. This deal works. Realistically, it's not that far off. They're very similar, right? 85,000 over here. What I punched in was 80,000. I don't think it's not a deal. If you were to get it at 85,000, you're probably still going to be able to move it. I don't know if you're going to move it for 100,000 and get that full $15,000 fee, but you're still going to be able to probably move the deal. All right. Now, let's shift those numbers a little bit and show you where it really, like a specific number situation, a property specific scenario would break the 70% of the 70% of the ARV minus repairs minus your wholesale fee gets broken. Okay. So ARV is 200,000, and the seller says, yeah, it needs a full cosmetic update. It's got foundation issues, needs a new roof too, siding, you know, AC, and probably some plumbing. And you're like, geez, man, this is full, like, gut job. All right. 80,000. All right. So the seller says, yeah, I want 45,000. Well, what are you doing? You punch this in 70% of ARV, 140 minus your 80,000 minus your $15,000 wholesale fee, put you at 45,000. What's your email? All right. Now let's come over here. 80,000 in repairs. And the seller said, I want 45,000. This is the scenario where your end buyer will look at you and say, no, thank you. The juice is just not worth the squeeze on this one. Here's the reason why. They're going to take on the time and the effort and the liability to do $80,000 in repairs to potentially make a $36,000 profit. Whereas guaranteed that exact same end buyer is staring at a deal in their email box where they could do $40,000 at work and make $41,000 in profit. You see the difference here? More work, less profit. It's still 70% of ARV minus repairs, minus the wholesale fee. This is why this doesn't work. This is why you have to look at it and say, what does my end buyer actually want out of this? So when you are doing acquisitions and you're comping and underwriting, you have to put yourself in the position of the end buyer. Then when you go to dispo the deal, when you understand this, when I say build a bridge to your end buyers, you are actually looking at it from what is the exit strategy that exists for this property? What are the numbers for those different exit strategies? For example, the ARV does not have to be the maximum amount the property can sell for. Like, we love to go and underwrite, comp the deal and say the highest sold comp was $200,000 and it was blinged out and it was perfect. Well, what about the property that sold for 175? Oh, well, it still had the Formica countertops and the, sea green tile in the bathrooms. And it just kind of had some new flooring and some paint, and it was just freshened up a little bit. Okay. Well, that means I don't have to rehab the kitchen, means I don't have to rehab the bathroom. I can just come in and do paint and flooring, and I can sell for 175. So it's a lot less work. So from that perspective, maybe it's better for the end buyer to look at it and say, yeah, instead of trying to achieve the full maximum after repair value, I'm willing to only do like a wholesale on this. I'm willing to come in and do less work, sell it for less amount, because now my profit makes sense for the amount of investment I'm making from a financial aspect, a time and an effort, and a liability standpoint. This is what I mean by build a bridge to your end buyers. Okay. When you market the deal, I don't necessarily want you to put in there, this is how much rehab you need to put on the property. I don't want you to put comps on the marketing of your dispositions deal. What I want you to put on there is say, hey, you have to put some sort of after repair value. Here's an after repair value. Here's our asking price. Here's pictures. And then you, as quickly as possible, get on the phone with your end buyers and start having a conversation. Hey, this is what we're seeing here. We're seeing that, the after repair value could be 200,000, but we also see some comps with a lot less work done to them for 175. And so, you could come in, you could do a $50,000 rehab, or you could do a $20,000 rehab. And what we're seeing is it might make a lot more sense to do 20,000. You got to see what I'm saying here. And you start getting that feedback from your end buyers. And you need to do this across the board on flips, the wholesales, to what the after repair value is in comparison to the amount of work to achieve that after repair value. And then also the additional exit strategies of a buy and hold as a rental, or a seller finance, all of the different things that stand out. Now, we don't want to go into like the small niche exit strategies like Airbnbs or midterm rentals or anything like that. We want to just leave it at the core three: flip, buy and hold rental, or seller finance. All right. That's pretty much where we want to leave it right there. But when you start having these conversations with your end buyers, first of all, they're going to respect the fact that you are putting yourself in their shoes and you are concerned about the investment that they are making in this property potentially, and the time, effort, financial liability. Like, you're really thinking about it. You're taking care of them. This is what you need to do as a wholesaler. What do we do as a wholesaler for our end buyers? We provide them great deals with equity and or cash flow. Okay, preferably both. We always have to be providing them equity. Okay, if the opportunity exists, we want to provide them the cash flow as well. In this scenario, though, the old antiquated way of thinking about it, with the 70% of after repair value minus the rehab minus the wholesale fee, can be broken with different scenarios. And this is where we see terminations, contract to close ratio getting skewed a little bit, because it's like, I thought I had a good deal because I went out. Sometimes it's like I went out and got a deal at 65%. Let's bring the calculator back up. Using this example right here of 200,000 with 80,000 repairs, you're like, all right, so I changed that to 65%. I'm down to 35,000. All right. So 80,000, even if you were changing this to 35,000, it's still $80,000 in work for a potential blue sky scenario profit for your end buyer of 46,000. Is there someone out there that potentially would say, I'm willing to do this because maybe I could save some cost on closing costs, or maybe I've got cheaper, maybe I'm using my own cash, so I won't have that much holding costs? Maybe. But we want to maximize our opportunity to dispo these deals. I don't know that very many people are going to be willing to do 80,000, because first of all, 80,000, that's us closing this sight unseen, and we're anticipating, but quite frankly, hoping that it's only $80,000 in repairs. How many of you have gone out to dispo deals and you thought 80,000 was the repairs, and they go, all your end buyers come back and say, nah, dude, that's easy, 100,000 all day. 100,000. And you're thinking to yourself, I bought this at 65% of ARV minus repairs. And they're telling me there's no way in hell. And because why? They're looking at this saying, I only stand to make $26,000 profit on this. Now, I can guarantee you there's no buyer that would be willing to do that right there. And of course, this is what happens. So on the higher rehab deals, right, you're going to run into this. This is why we always say what we really want to see is not necessarily worry about what that profit percentage is, because that number can be skewed. Don't worry about buying it at a certain discount off of the after repair value. What we really want to see is like a one-on-one translation between the amount of repairs and the amount of profit that your end buyer is making. If you can keep that pretty similar. Now, you don't want to give them a deal where it's like, hey, you're only doing $10,000 in repairs and you're only going to make $10,000 in profit. Okay. That's where it's like, okay, you're not wholesaling me a deal, right? There has to be like a minimum discount that we're getting there. All right. This is where it's like the higher repair deals, the bigger rehab budget deals. That's where you have to really buy steeper and deeper for your end buyer to give them more profit for the more amount of work that they have to put in, the larger investment that they're making in on this deal. So that's where you really need to think about. There's like a minimum amount of discount that you have to give them. All right. And keep that rehab and profit dollar amount pretty similar, specifically as it goes up and up and up in the rehab. That is how you want to build a bridge for your end buyer on why your deal is good. Now, the flip side of this, because we've done a lot of conversation right now about, taking care of our end buyer, making sure that we're providing them with a good deal. The other aspect of this is you need to protect yourself as the wholesaler when you're dispoing your deals. Okay. And so why it's important for you to know these numbers is when you send the deal to your end buyer, then your end buyer says, you're asking way too much for that. I would need it way, way deeper. Okay. Well, what are you seeing as the after repair value? Okay. So they tell you what they see as the ARV. What are you seeing in rehab? They tell that to you. Now from there, you can reverse engineer that using the profit calculator to say, all right, well, I'm seeing right here, based off the numbers that you just gave me, that you would be doing about $40,000 worth of work on the property, and you stand to make $41,000 of profit. What are you looking for, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, for the amount of profit for that amount of work? If you're saying my numbers are off. Now, maybe they think that the after repair value is different. Okay, that's a solid concern. Then we can back up our numbers, our after repair value, with the comps that we use. This is why we don't want to give them comps up front in case they come back and they say they disagree. Now we can come to them with the evidence and say, this is what we're using as comps. What are you using as comps? Let's see if we can come to an agreement on that. Now, the most common thing that an end buyer is going to disagree with, or maybe potentially be more conservative on, is the rehab budget. So we estimate 40,000. They come back and say it's more like 55,000. Okay, so that's where we have the conversation. Okay, where are you coming up with that? What rehab did I potentially miss? Okay, because the other thing is once they give you those numbers, you want to make them a repeat buyer from you. So you really want to kind of dive in and explore, like, how did they come up with $55,000 in rehab? So I can understand that moving forward. So the next time I get a lead in this city and I want to lock it up and bring it directly to you and have a one-call dispo, I want to understand, how did you get to 55,000 when I got to 40,000? Was it something that we missed and we need to go back to the seller and renegotiate on? Or was it that just my dollar amounts were off? Because that does happen. There's times where it's like, quite frankly, we don't do enough business in like a Boston, Massachusetts, where we're going to always understand exactly how much it's costing our end buyers to do rehab today. All right. So we want to ask them, how did you come up with this? There's two different paths there. It's, we missed something. It needed a new roof. It needs an HVAC. It needs a new boiler, whatever it is. Okay. Now that we can go back. We didn't know that. Let's go back to the seller and let's try to renegotiate the price for you. Make sure before you do that, though, you understand that your end buyer is willing to buy at whatever offer amount they're giving you. Okay. Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, how much would you buy this for? Okay, cool. Let me see if I can go make that work for you. The flip side is that there's just a disagreement on the dollar amount. That's going to be a lot more difficult to go back and try to renegotiate with the seller if it's like, yeah, it's a pure cosmetic rehab, and my pure cosmetic rehabs are $55,000 when the seller told us it's a pure cosmetic rehab and we estimated 40. That's on us. Okay. You got to keep exploring. You got to go find you that buyer that can do the work for $40,000. Now, I'm not saying that you can't renegotiate it, but we really want to try to eliminate that as much as possible. Okay. Because really we don't have like specific line items that we can point to and say, this is why the rehab is a lot more than what we had talked about. All right. But across the board, those are the two different ways that I want you guys building a bridge for your end buyers, right? One, putting yourself in their shoes and understanding the capital investment they're making, the energy investment they're making, the time investment they're making, and the liability that they would be taking on with this project. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Once you understand that, when you go to dispo this, understanding those numbers, understanding how to have that conversation with your end buyer is crucial so you can verify, like, where are we off here? Here's what I'm seeing as the after repair value. Where are you seeing the after repair value? This is how much repairs we are seeing. What are you seeing? Based off of that, this is how much potential profit we're seeing. Do you agree with that? They're not going to say no because we're being conservative on this. We're putting in 7% on the closing costs, putting in 5% for the holding costs. Quite frankly, that's a lot more than the vast majority of wholesalers out there. And this helps us sell deals on repeat to the same end buyers because we're always thinking about their position and we're taking care of them and we're listening to their needs. The same way we listen to the needs of our sellers, we want to listen to the needs of our end buyers, build a bridge for them, listen, take care of them. This will help you succeed as a virtual wholesaler. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure to give me a like. We'll see you guys tomorrow.